Hyperbull, Cake and Hyperbull, poetry is on the way. Cake and Hyperbull, Cake and Hyperbull, the poetry candle is whistling, yay. Cake and Hyperbull, poetry and life and death and discussion. Sometimes hyperbole, sometimes hyperbole, and cake poetry is on the way.
Welcome everybody to our it's not really our first Cake and Hyperbull, because this is kind of a crossover from the Poetry Lives, but welcome. And I hope you enjoyed that song that was by Amy Zoellers here, partner in crime, also known from the Poetry events. And with us today, we have two guests. We have each brought a guest. Who did you bring today?
I brought Rina Inae, an Instagram buddy. We interviewed, I interviewed her.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, I interviewed them not long ago on their new poetry collection. We'll discuss.
Which
continue.
We will have a link to today. And I brought Amy Langevin, who I love. I actually love both of these poets. I love pretty much all poets. So that's probably not hard for me to get to love you. But let's go ahead and bring them on, and we will hear all the poetic doings. Welcome, you guys.
Welcome. Thank you. Hello.
And I already forgot what I was doing. I was going to give a shout out to the Secular Saint Army that is guarding us and blessing us today. Oops. Over here, we have Dearly Beloved's candles. I have David Bowie, who is just a deity, in his Ziggy Stardust stage. And I have Gordon Linsner, who is the father of Space and Time magazine, and, of course, Edgar Allan Poe. Because, Edgar Allan Poe. But I will share that in the chats to everybody. This is where you can get your own Secular Army. Of course, right there, I'll go, look at that. I misspelled something.
I think I have some behind me, too. I've got Blitz of Argyle, Roland S. Howard, and Edgar Allan Poe. I didn't like them. I don't know why. I'm going to move him over. Hello, handsome. Okay, there we go. All right.
We don't play with dolls anymore. We play with candles.
Yes. Play with fire.
Well, awesome. I am so excited to do this. We've been talking about doing this for a while. I don't know if you have any, but I do have an awful cake that I may eat in celebration.
It's not awful, really.
It is.
No,
I ate
beautiful.
one earlier. It's pretty awful.
Oh,
okay.
I have some Swiss rolls over the way that my son eats for breakfast, and he'll get mad. But the thing is, we made a cake that I posted on it, a half of one, because I only had this one. I flipped. Anyway, we ate it, my son and I. So it's gone. I made it on, what is this, Saturday? I think I made it on Thursday. It's gone. So.
Oh, that's funny.
But it fueled me for this event, so it contributed.
This was called unicorn cake, and as I was eating it, I was trying to figure out what it tastes like, and I think probably a unicorn. It was like sweet soap. That's how I can describe it.
Now, was it like
soap?
Do what?
Unicorns taste like soap?
Yeah, it did. So, yeah, like sugared soap, which if that would be a thing.
Oh dear. So is this factory cake or like bakery cake? What's the deal?
No, it's a factory. It's like a Swiss rolly kind of packaged thing. I had another piece of cake that was all rainbow and really cool, and then I was like, that's a lot of commitment. So I'm just gonna get this throwaway thing.
Love it.
Yeah. But you want to get started? Do you want to start with Rina, and we can all have introduce each of our beautiful poets today, and then we'll just kind of get started and start talking about what you guys are doing and what inspires you. And
take it away, Rina. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Rina, and tell us about yourself.
Introduce myself. Okay. I'm not very good
not
at
to put you on the spot,
myself.
but
I'm just a regular, everyday, normal person living in Russia. I write some poetry in English. Yeah, I know it's weird. I live in Russia, but I write poetry in English. But it just comes to me in English for some reason. That's it. Recently, actually a month ago, I published my first poetry collection called Songs of Despair Behind the Closed Doors. I can tell actually how I got that name for the collection, or
Yeah, no,
maybe
definitely.
later.
No, because we're just chatting right now. Go ahead and tell us how you got the name. I just shared the link, by the way. If you're watching, you can go find a copy of that in the chat boxes.
Yeah, so originally I was just writing separate poems. Not all of them were good, and not all of them are on this collection. Yeah, like maybe half of them is in the collection, but yeah, there are some other poems that I decided to discard. But then one day I was watching an interview with a poet Nicole Blackman. Do you know Nicole Blackman? I was watching an interview called Anorexia and Art, I think, if I remember correctly. And Nicole said something like, "Go and write your own book." And that inspired me. And the title for the book I also got from her, from that interview, because somewhere along the lines they discussed it, like we pretend that we are okay, but then we get behind the closed doors, and in the safety of our closed doors we become our real selves. We become sometimes miserable, suffering people, and that's basically what inspired the title. Songs of Despair Behind the Closed Doors. So a collection about the true feelings of a person who doesn't want to appear to be something else.
Awesome. I like that. And I think that's all of us in a way. I think we all have the images that we present to different, like your work, your party, people, certain friends, your family. So, no, I think that's an awesome title.
Thanks.
Amy, Langevin. How about you?
Well, first I want to say I'm really looking forward to getting Rina's collection. It sounds awesome. But as for me, I kind of just started writing when it was slow at work, and between customers, I would just start writing some poetry and short stories. I got lucky with a few of them; they got published, and then after that, I made my own poetry collection, which I published in 2017. And since then, I've just been getting back into writing poetry, short stories, and I'm working on a novella right now. So just little stuff. That's pretty much it for me.
Awesome. That's how I actually discovered you, as Man Who Married Death.
Mm-hmm.
Was your first collection, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a cool title.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. All of these books are so cool. I just want to say I'm in awe of you guys because there's so much coolness here, and Amy Zoellers too. Each of us has our own different style, and I constantly find myself jealous of everybody else's style because that's how we operate, and we feed each other and share that creativity. So there is definitely more cake and happiness in my poetry since I started hanging around with Amy.
Good.
Yeah, I loved your jingle, by the way, too.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I should mention I apologize because you will sleep and hear this jingle. I heard this jingle all night last night in my sleep. I swear.
Success. The hook.
Well, how about everybody just tell us how you got into poetry? Like, what's your poetry story? We all have different stories. Amy Z, you want to go first?
Sure. Okay, how I got into poetry. When I was a kid, of course, the Shel Silverstein was all in the libraries, and I enjoyed that. But when I was in 5th grade, the story that I like to tell is I was at school at this one special day a week where we went to a different school to do different things. And there was this teacher we had who was just like this sweet little, baby doll of a woman. And she was like our creative writing teacher, but she left. It's like the story's not even about her. The gal who replaced her was like kind of this large, lumpy woman who was really sarcastic and would like eat her yogurt in front of us. And she was just all like, her name was Miss Bruns, because she read us The Telltale Heart at Halloween. And I was like, what? And so through the fiction of Edgar Allan Poe, my father was an English teacher, an English major and master's degree, and had a bunch of Poe that he gave to me, and so I discovered the poetry through that. And then it just like Dead Poet Society came out, the movies, when I was in 9th grade, and I think I went like 5 times to see it because so many cute boys, so much poetry. Started going through all my dad's old books from his studies and reading up on a lot of English poetry and some American poetry. And so that was my minor in college, was English. And so really I've just kind of carried it with me throughout. And then especially if there are like times of, despair, I would definitely do it. There was a writer named Helen Phillips who I just read a little blurb about her in, of all things, Nylon magazine, which is a fashion magazine, but they would do things with film and literature as well. And she was saying that she had a project she would do for like a year or two. She would write a poem every day and read a poem every day. So I started doing that, and you really kind of get into the swing of it, and it just keeps coming. And so it just becomes a discipline, a practice, and addiction. So I haven't published anything formally, but I used to get a lot of things printed up at the espresso book machine at the University of Missouri, because I used to live in Columbia for like 11 years, and I would just get these books printed up and just kind of give them to people. It's weird. It's weird when I think about it now, but you know how it is as a writer when you're like, if I don't do this, I'm absolutely gonna like erupt like a volcano. And so then you do it, and then you go to get in your bed, you're like, oh crap, what did I just do? Giving that to just people from wherever, and so, but I don't care now. I'm in my 40s, so I'm cool with it. And so now I do it a lot. I also do some visual art and other things, some music sometimes, but that's my poetry story. Thank you for asking.
That's awesome. We all love to tell our poetry stories. How about you, Amy Langevin? We won't keep picking on you, Rina. We'll let Amy be on the spotlight this time first.
Okay. Well, I guess it starts off a bit the same with Edgar Allan Poe. Like, we started reading him in school, and I just loved it, especially The Telltale Heart. That one, the main character just reminds me of me with this paranoia and how it just ruins everything. Because if he didn't have that, he would have gotten away with it. So that, and then I think actually what inspired me to start writing poetry was Algernon Charles Swinburne. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name right, but he's this English poet, and he's amazing. Because have you guys heard of him?
I have, but I haven't read a lot of it.
I think I've heard his name, but I haven't made a study. I'm writing his name down, actually.
Oh, yeah, he writes this amazing stuff. It's kind of hard for me to understand, but when you look at like the meaning that they give you alongside it, it's just amazing. And it's this beautiful combination of like really sadistic, because he was a sadist, and he takes this really like gory, but he makes it beautiful because it's just like this combination of just like really like the most cannibalistic, dark, thick stuff, but then written beautifully and just really intelligently. Like he's incredible. So he actually, when I started reading him, that's when I just felt his energy, and I was like, I just want to write something. And then I wrote my first poems, and I guess that was it. So maybe he's the biggest one, even though I've probably read the least of him. He's probably my biggest inspiration.
That's awesome. What is his name again?
Algernon Charles Swinburne.
Okay. I am writing that down so I can look him up.
Mm-hmm.
All right. How about you, Rina? What is your poetry story? We all have our stories. What inspired us?
I have 2 stories. They are not really 2 stories. They are not even stories. The thing is that I started writing poetry when I was 8, 9, maybe. I don't remember. And I don't remember what influenced me. I just kind of, I've been writing since I learned how to write. sometimes poetry, sometimes prose, and at some point, being an edgy teenager, I thought that poetry is not cool, like prose is better, and all that. Yeah, then I rediscovered poetry by reading Sylvia Plath, by reading
Oh yeah.
Allen Ginsberg. Actually, how I started how I found Ginsberg. I mean, I had known about him, but one day, 3 years ago, I watched Kill Your Darlings with Daniel Radcliffe. Amazing movie. If you haven't seen it, do it. It's really good. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Yeah, and then of
This
course,
on my desk. Kill Your Darlings.
yeah, nice, great, love it. Yeah, like I said, after that movie, I became interested with his persona, his biography, and of course his poetry. And somehow I ended up trying it out myself. At first, I remember I was very angry about the global warming and wrote something angry and straightforward on the topic. And this poem never made it anywhere. Of course, it was very rudimentary. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. It wasn't worth it to share, really. But then I just found myself sitting down and writing more often, and somehow at some point, like I said, then I got this idea from Nicole Blackman. I got inspired to write a poetry book, and then it was just I know what this collection will be about. I know the main idea, and that's it. The moment, I remember the moment also when I realized it was ready, when I wrote Angelina, the last poem from the collection, and it also was the last poem that I wrote for it. Yeah, because not all of them are in chronological order, but that one, yes. I wrote it and I realized that something in me has changed, and I've arrived somewhere. Yeah, and that was it. I'm not going to tell you how hard it was to prepare and organize, and how many hours I spent in Microsoft Word rearranging stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can imagine, because Microsoft Word is tough to work in anyways.
Yeah.
I am not a fan of Microsoft Word. So I will
But
say
it's what I
bad things
work in.
about it. Yeah. Well, always say bad things about Microsoft Word, but I understand that we all have our preferences. No, that's interesting, and I like how it was a cathartic experience, really, for both of you and for all of us. I think that's a lot of the reasons why we come to poetry. It's cathartic, we get it out, but at the end of it, we are different people. After you write something. What do you think, Amy Z?
I want you to share your poetry story, Angela. Yuriko Smith.
Yeah, I forgot my poetry story.
Don't forget.
Which, believe it or not, even though I've only seen Dead Poets Society once, but that's because I'm not a movie person, it did start with a cute boy, and it was The Highwaymen by Alfred Noyes. I feel like he's got more names than that, Alfred Noyes, but Noyes. But I read that on the playground in Cheyenne, Wyoming, where nothing was going on but tumbleweeds, and I was that super weird kid that nobody liked. I had the weird middle name. I ate spinach. I loved spinach, and I ate other weird things because my mother's Okinawan. So I had that against me in Wyoming, which is pretty homogenized. And so I was always off in the playground by myself with the tumbleweeds. And I had a book, and it had The Highwaymen in it. And I read it, and blew my world apart. Because if you're not familiar with it, it's a lot of picture Adamant, Prince, Ziggy Stardust, all of that wrapped up in this one dashing, highwayman with the lace at his throat and the coat of claret and, velvet and just sexy all over the place. Any guys listening or whatever, I'm sorry, but super sexy. I do it for highwaymen and crooks and Zorro. And yeah, I'm probably too TMI. But anyways, in third grade, as I was budding into womanhood, that was the bomb to me. But it also, I had read a ton of other work, prose and everything. And he has things like the moon was a ghostly galleon upon a cloudy sea. And the thought that you could describe the moon on a cloudy night in such a vivid way that said more than just, it was a full moon on a cloudy night. That hooked me. And then after that, I wrote a lot of poetry until I went to high school, my 1 month before I said, forget this, and went to a critique group. And then I didn't write poetry again for quite a long time because that was pretty vicious. So don't be a vicious critiquer. That's my 2 cents. You don't know who you're killing. What soul are you killing? Don't do it.
Yeah, find the good stuff. It's there,
Yeah.
Just be constructive,
Yeah, because just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's not good. It's not for you.
Right.
Yeah. Or if you're a pro and you see something, you can just be like, well, you just say it nicely. Like, teach them. You don't have to. I don't understand the people who are just vicious for no reason.
Sometimes I think it's a reflection of somebody who has a low self-esteem or they don't feel good about their own work. So it's easy to attack somebody and try to build yourself up. But that is the worst way to build yourself up. You're literally making a foundation of sand. So
right.
Anybody who's watching this that's a vicious critiquer, that's my 2 cents. I'm critiquing right now.
Agree. That's a good critique right there, because I think there's probably a middle ground between that and like my college poetry teacher, who was this beautiful sort of hippie woman who was like, if you turn in the work, you get an A, because who am I to judge your work? And it's like, you know what though? I kept going because of that, because I'm the kind of personality that at that age, when I was like 18 or 19, if somebody said that my work was garbage, I was gonna believe them, and I was gonna care, and I was gonna be very careful not to make that mistake again. And so I thank God for that beautiful hippie poetry teacher who was like, who am I? And it kind of gave me an attitude about who am I to kind of badmouth other people's stuff as well. So because they're saying their thing, and it's coming from inside of them. And it's like Angela says, this is exactly what I taught my one kid when he was little. Don't say you hate that. Don't say it. Just say it's not your favorite, or say it's not for you. Stuff like exactly. So because fair enough. Somebody out there is going to like it, is what the internet has taught me.
Yeah. There's a place for all of us. Yay, technology.
Yes, I know. I never thought I'd say it, but yay, technology.
Well, speaking of poetry, we have these 2 wonderful poets here, and I believe they are ready to share some poetry with us. You guys ready?
Yep.
Not to put you on the spot, but you're on. No.
Sounds like a plan. Yeah.
Yeah, who wants to go
you guys
first?
aren't reading then. So Angela and Amy, are you guys reading anything?
Well, at the second half, we both have poetry to read.
Okay, I don't know. I thought we were.
Oh yeah, we can.
Okay.
There are no rules here. No rules. We do what we figure out that we're going to do.
I'm ready for both segments. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. We've got stuff lined up. Yeah, but I definitely want to hear from both of you guys.
Yes.
This, by the way, is your moment to sell yourself, sell your work, be conceited. That's what we want. You guys are awesome. You are the stars. So be stars.
Yeah.
Wow. See, now I'm self-judging. Why did I say that? So who wants to go first?
I don't really
draw a
care.
circle in
Rita,
this.
My poem is very long, so I think you should start.
Okay, sure. I was gonna read. This poem is called "To My Beloved Dead Wife." This is one of the first poems that I wrote, and also it was published in Into the Night. So, okay. It seems our union was not smiled on, for in this casket you rest instead of our bed. Still, never have you entranced me so long as you do now, white wintry angel, that you're dead. A responsive odd and quite dark, I know, but who can condemn till death blurring musk he smells, or feels of its flesh's silken plateaus, which wait and tempt when he gives that final farewell. Of my affection you mustn't make question, it beats stronger than any in all men's hearts, for a lover of docile position stimulates the most passionate of carnal arts. So now, dearest, I've stolen you back to my bed, to love you how I could never when we were wed.
Like it.
Intense. Yeah.
I like it. What inspired that? Like, what's the story behind that? You don't have to divulge too much if you don't want to.
Okay. No, I'll tell you. I don't know why, but I have a fascination with things like necrophilia and cannibalism, and that's always been what's inspired me. Even when I try to write something like nice or things that most people would care about, it's always like dead bodies that inspire me. So I did that, and I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if, the story's about a man who experiences his wife's death and all the loss and the grief that brings. But then when when he sees her in the casket, he falls in love with her in a whole new way. And that's what I was kind of fascinated by. Like, when you see your spouse, if you have to go through that tragedy, if you see them dead, they would be like the biggest reaction that you have, which would be like probably the sadness. But then underneath it, because we all have the dark side, we all have these other parts of us that are kind of cut off or suppressed. I was wondering, like, with me, like, would one of those parts awaken and see something beautiful in the death, and then experience this woman like she's physically there, but she's not mentally there. She has no personality. So could you love the same human in a different state? I don't know if that comes across in the poem, but that's
No,
what it's
I
like.
did.
Yeah, and
Cool.
I love
Good to hear.
that's one thing that I really like, especially like when I read Man Who Married Death, is that honesty and that willingness to see that we can be pretty, I would say disgusting, but that's the cultural judgment on it. There are some cultures, they eat their dead, and that is considered reverent. In our culture, we would be, horrified. And I think that's illegal. I'm pretty sure that's illegal. But one place we have to go is a body farm in Tennessee where you can go and dig up real bodies for a forensics thing. It's like
For
$600.
science.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
What?
Okay, share.
This is a real thing?
Angela's plan.
Yes,
Oh my
I found
God,
out
I
about
can
this
go.
right after COVID, so I was like, "Dang it, I can't go right now." But it's for policemen and scientists and stuff to go and dig up a body and see. You can donate your own body there. They don't go kill people and bury them.
No.
But yeah, it's a science thing. But if you pay and take the class, which is like $600 for a week, you can go dig up bodies in various states of decomposition and discover like how they died, and which sounds really super gruesome. So I apologize to anybody who is horrified right now, but yeah, I think Amy Langevin and we got the same thing going on here. We're going to do a road trip to the body farm sometime.
Definitely. And let's make it happen. Let's not just talk about it. Let's actually do it someday.
Oh,
I'm down for
and
that.
then you guys,
COVID clears up.
and then afterwards,
And anyone else
write
who
it
wants to go.
beautifully.
Yeah.
And I would not like to go, but I would like to read it written beautifully, as you say, about Algernon Charles Swinburne. And then I would love to read about your experiences, both of you.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I do accept
Definitely.
now later in my life that not everybody has the same taste that I do, and it's okay. Don't
It's
insult me
hard.
with me.
It's hard. I know. Nobody in my house is like into a lot of things that I'm into. I get it.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Rita? Because I know you want to read at the end, but I don't want you to just have to wait.
Yeah.
Have you ever had anything like that? Like just kind of that whole what society accepts, like you can't eat people. and there's all the judgment on it. But does that come into your work at all?
Absolutely, yeah. I think the true poetry discovers these taboo topics a lot. I mean, not actually these topics, yeah, any topics which are taboo, like incest, for example. This is one of the topics that is it's present in a poem that I will read during the open mic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and yeah, that or teenage love, another thing. You know that it's often romanticized, Romeo and Juliet, but for real, what is teenage love? It's almost always a tragedy, and love as a tragedy is actually one of the topics that I've written a lot about. Yeah.
That's awesome. But that's the good thing about poetry is you can tell the truth, but in a way that's not the truth. You can tell the truth, but in a way that doesn't put you on the spot because it's poetry. We can say whatever we want. And I think sometimes we're the most honest in poetry of any other writing form because we can say things in metaphor, you know, admit dark secrets. Like it is actually on my bucket list to taste a body at some point, taste human flesh. Just a bite. That's all I need. Like that unicorn cake that I made, that I ate that made me sick. Just curiosity. And
How much worse can it be?
I know. Just in case anybody's wondering what I'm referring to, I did get this in celebration of the first Cake in Hyperbull, and I ate one this morning, and it's disgusting, and it made me sick. So, tastes like soap. Sweet soap.
Representative. Yeah, what were they going for, I wonder? Oh my goodness.
I will
Travesty
send you
of cake.
a good recipe
Yeah.
for a cake.
Angela, I almost brought some of that cake over to leave on your porch. But then my son kind of discovered it, and I thought, oh, he's going to be mad at me, and I'm going to have to bake more. And so, out of laziness,
Yeah, it's okay. Since we're all being honest here, I will admit when I saw that cake on your Instagram, I was like,
you almost came over.
That might show up on my porch, maybe.
I thought about it. I should have made a whole cake. I just made a half of one because I thought I sure don't need a whole cake around. It didn't occur to me that I could have taken some to you and my friend and my dad and everything. Like,
it's okay. You know, I honestly don't need cake. That's why I didn't get the huge giant rainbow one because I would eat the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so that was a good compromise because I officially did eat cake today. And also, if that's what unicorns taste like, this is why we don't market unicorns, like why we don't have them like cattle. They're not good. No. Don't eat a unicorn. No. It's disgusting.
Not yummy. Oh.
I am going to share a couple things in chat real quick. And then I'm going to ask you the same question, guys, but that way people in chat can participate too. Cool. What are some of your favorite creatives, like the things that inspire you? And I don't mean just poetry, but like music. Like David Bowie is one of my muses, obviously. I think he's pretty universal as a muse, but, you know, maybe not for everybody. I get inspired by weird things like just a YouTube video. Like, what are some of the things that inspire you guys? Amy, I'm going to pick on you.
Which Amy?
Yeah, I'm just like sort of like cutting people off because sometimes we got a delay. So.
No, you start. I was just saying Amy, so I figured one of you would start talking.
Jimmy,
Langevin. I yield the floor to Langevin.
All right, thank you. So I guess from the earliest thing would be Ozzy Osbourne for me, Dave Mustaine. A lot of like heavy metal, but lately, actually, what I've really been excited about was Flesh God Apocalypse. They have this song called Mona Lisa, and it's the music is incredible. It's you know like really heavy, but it's also they have these classical elements that intertwine, and they also have the most incredible presentation of their music. So I would highly recommend Mona Lisa by Flesh God Apocalypse. Just YouTube it. I've watched that thing probably at least like 100 times. I did not get bored of it. it's stuff like that because it's not just the sound of it, but it's the effort that they put into it that I can see, and it makes me want to try harder. It's like, well, like let me look at this, or let me just spend one more day on this part, and like no detail becomes too small. And I think when I started thinking more like that, it just makes the whole creative process way more fun. So those are some of the big influences. Also, I like Dolly. I'll look at art all the time, or I'll even just like pictures of landscapes, documentaries too. It's anything that inspires me.
That's cool. Whoops. I accidentally tabbed out. There we go. I'm back. How about you, Rina? What inspires you, like, and not just poetry, but just in general, where do you get your creative juices from?
I think poetry is something that inspires me less than something else, maybe the least even. I don't even read that much poetry. I can say why, because I hate Russian translations. And for example, I want to read Baudelaire, but I can't because the translations are horrible and I don't know any French.
Yeah.
Yeah. What inspires me? A lot of things. If we are talking art, it's first of all, it's music. One of my favorite musicians are Nick Cave, Blixebargeld of Einsturz and the Neubauten. Yes, him, this amazing human being.
Agreed.
David Bowie as well. I love him very much, Angela. So yeah, I agree with you. He is pretty much universal, like, and he's a creature from some other dimension. Actually, yeah, I think these highly artistic people, they are like creatures. They are like aliens.
Yeah.
Because they're so unique and they are so different from the others. And the way they think is just so fascinating. So, yeah, I like calling them creatures, not in the derogatory way, the vice versa, in the admiring way.
Yeah.
Then, of course, I haven't mentioned this here, but I'm also a visual artist, not just a poet. I'm also a visual artist. I draw traditional art, musicians as well, and other stuff. And of course, visual art inspires me. One of my favorite painters is Egon Schiele. And as you can see, the center of his, as you probably know, the center of his attention was the person, the human body, humanity. He mostly drew human figures. Of course, he also did some landscapes and some, flowers, stuff like that. But of course, most of his work is about humanity. Then I also like Jean-Michel Basquiat, contemporary artist who was again very unique, very creature-like.
Yeah.
He was like a rock star, an artist rock star. And I just remembered, I wanted to say that you remember the poem Dark Prince. It was inspired by Tori Amos' book, Piece by Piece. It was a semi-biographical book. And she was talking about this concept of Dark Prince, like a piece of yourself, like a part of yourself that you have to accept, something like that. Of course, my poem isn't exactly about that, but that's what the phrase Dark Prince stuck with me. Yeah.
I love that poem. I'm going to interject really quick. I interviewed Rina when their poetry book came out, and I was obsessed with Dark Prince. So that was such a fun. And they received it in a dream, which I'm, it happens
Yeah,
now and then
yeah.
with me, but not really on that level. So jealous.
Oh, that's awesome. I
Yeah.
actually have that book now. I just haven't had a chance to read it yet, so I'm super excited.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Love that poem.
Yeah, dreams inspire me a lot, right?
Yes.
Thank you for reminding me,
Yes.
Izzy. Because I very often I have strange dreams that just I want them to linger. I want them to become more real. So I write a poem based on a dream, or sometimes I even receive some images that I can incorporate in a poem, or just sometimes I just sit down and describe my dream and it's a poem. For example, Angelina.
That's awesome.
Another beauty.
I see Amy L is nodding a lot. I think you probably have a lot of the same experiences.
Oh, well, actually, no. I'm kind of jealous because I've heard a lot of people receive things through dreams. Like I think Jimi Hendrix did, and I've always wanted that, but I don't really dream. And if I dream, they don't make sense. They're really boring. So it's terrible. So that's awesome that you have that connection and you can do that.
Not always. I have periods of time when I don't remember my dreams at all. So.
Amy, there is an herb called mugwort. I have tried it once, but I tried it on a wrong night to try it when my husband was having back trouble, kept waking me up. But there's this, I'm trying to remember, Mountain Rose Herbs has a tea called Dream Tea, and it's supposed to be based on this ancient recipe where people rely on it if they wanted to have vivid dreams that they would remember. And so I'm going to try it probably during Scout Camp week when I'm all by myself. And so it's a thought. If you ever thought about Dream Tea from like Mountain Rose Herb Company, that might be a thought. I don't know.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll definitely try it. Thanks. You said Mountain Rose?
Mountain Rose Herbs.
Okay.
It's just they're just on the internet, and you can order it online. It's called Dream Tea.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
I'm going to propose that I get some of that, and on that Scout week, we both take it and then talk the next morning and see what we come up with.
Yes.
I think all of us have Dream Tea.
Yeah.
I just saved that link. I'm going to share that in chat.
Do that.
I really want to come to America and join you guys on your camp with that tea. That would be so awesome.
Yeah.
I'm for it, Rina. Come on over.
And then any of us who want to will
be
go
right
on
back
to the body
in the
farm.
morning. Just gonna hop a plane. Come on over. But I think that would be a fun experiment to see how that goes.
Yeah. I love that whole, of course, we've got the whole, the Yuta, which is in my family in the Okinawan side, they were the Yuta, which is the link between the worlds. So kind of like mediums or witchcraft in our culture of America, but not really at all. But that's our closest kind of thing.
Okay.
And so dreams are super important in that because dreams come true, so I really want to kind of do that because I can't control I can't make myself dream unless I've listened to your Hyperbull song way too much during a week, and then I will dream about that all night.
I'm gonna go to heaven, and I'm gonna be like, "It's me, God. Remember, cake and Hyperbull cake,
Hyperbull cake and Hyperbull."
And I'll be like, poetry is
coming now. It was such an Addams Family feel to that too. I loved it.
I wrote it in the car. I had this really busy day, and there were two songs I wanted to write. The s'mores song, which for some reason is like, talk about jealousy. This is a brief point on jealousy. I was like, gosh, I wish I were cool like this poet and this poet and this poet. When the s'mores song came to me, based on a coffee mug I have that I'll tell you about another time, I was like, God, thank you for making me the recipient of this s'mores song. I'm sorry, can't get over it. It's great. And my husband's like, you're nuts. He goes, Amy, you're nuts. It's like, but fair enough. But s'mores, hello skeleton. Anyway. Zip. somebody else's turn.
Okay, maybe I'll read my poem.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think this is a good
Yes.
time because we don't want to run out of time.
Yeah,
And I'm going to mute
exactly.
because I have dogs over here and I do not want them to interrupt you.
Okay. So this is a poem from the collection, and it's called "The Moon and the Rose." Okay. Young days, you run around hand in hand. He wants to be a painter. You play the piano in your room, and he sits silent, liquid bronze lacing through his lashes. His slim fingers always twirl a pencil or a crumpled clod of paper. His scent is vanilla and acidic sweat. You rummage his fine hair, and it slips through your fingers. Night out in the summer camp, the fire paints his skin orange, and little sunflowers bloom across his pointy nose. You shrug when he says Olivia wants to go to the field with you two. You make sandwiches for three, watch the clouds run above the cloudy heads of two giggling kids. Olivia's here next to him, on a picnic, on a bicycle ride, on a river dip. You glimpse them embraced behind the rose bushes, naked. Next picnic, Olivia brings her friend, a quiet redhead Sonia. Her freckles don't bloom, and you wring your hands, staring into your friend's watery blue eyes, reflecting the giggly gleams of the river. Sorry, can't come. He smiles an apologetic smile after you ask him to join a family dinner. Olivia's parents are off to the summer house. You nod. At night, you lock your room and squint your eyes, trying to blink off the brightness of his shimmering skin against the crimson roses. Later days. He pensively smokes in your room, twirling a band of outgrown hair. Your fingers tremble at the pace of Moonlight Sonata. The moon paints his face silver and blue. He sighs, coughs, smokes three in a row. Stockbroker isn't quite bad. He smiles, and his teeth crook like he's bitten a lemon. You hold his warm hand, caress his leaning fingers with nails in need of clipping, and press your dry lips to his knuckles. You open your eyes. The sonata's gone quiet. He's smoking miles away from you in the dark corner of the room. Not a single letter in a year after he goes to college in the north. You give lessons at day, and at night, his hands wringing arms, labored breath, silky thin hair, beaten lips, sticky chest, cold feet, raw groans. You grab a fistful of hair, tug on it, gnaw your teeth in your wrists till they bleed, shake, shrink, contract. You meet Olivia in a supermarket. She's all smiles with hollow eyes. No, he hasn't called me either. On Christmas Day, your doorbell rings. A bottle of wine is thrust through your arms. The scent of vanilla is gone, but his hair is still uncut. He pats your back in a firm embrace, and you strangle a siren in your throat. Next summer, you are his best man. His bride, Claire, wears a rose-shaped pendant he gave her. You give lessons and sometimes play Moonlight Sonata. How beautiful he is in this picture, in your empty room bathed in silver. Invitations to family dinners, conversations with the wife, a smile that hurts your face. We're expecting, beams Claire, while he is out to get another bottle. Claire invites her girlfriend next time. How bad can it get? Her breath smells like corn. You dodge, her arms are persistent around your neck. You say you have to go. In neon-flooded streets, you nod with a smile at a red-haired boy in a leather jacket. Call him his name on a shabby hotel mattress. Their daughter is a crier. He smokes more, bites his nails, rubs heavy bags under his eyes. You have to take a break from the lesson, doctor's advice. They invite you to a beach holiday, and you press a pillow to your ears to shield yourself from the other room and the scorching volume of shouts, scrutinizing your nails at breakfast. You take up more lessons. Moonlight Sonata is fierce and raw under your spider paws. Maths stopped working. They never did anyway, maybe because you washed them down with scotch. You spin a cobweb in your blue room and lay on the floor with your sick, viscid hand outstretched. You have 8 strained eyes, but they are still not enough to cry out all your tears. Another Christmas, he comes with a whole box of wine, half empty. Itching breath, staggering legs, hair is a mess, short collar open, soggy nose, sore eyes. He cries on your shoulder, not knowing how many times you cried on his in your dreams. He grabs onto you as to his last hope of deliverance. You kiss his weak mouth, press him, hold him, squeeze him. He pushes you away with mad eyes and flaring nostrils so hard that the knock of your head against the ebony leaves red petals of blood blooming on the piano sleeve. In your three-piece suit, you stare at the grayness at your temples, listening to the chatter in the concert hall, squeeze a small photo in your trousers pocket. Come onto the stage and play your sonata called The Moon and the Rose. Your chest aches as the spotlight blinds your bad eyes. There is no tremor in your age-spotted fingers anymore, and you smile at the applauding crowd, saying goodnight. The band is cheering, you crave a drink, and stroll weary to the back exit, when a security guard touches your arm, saying there is a gentleman wanting to see you. Says he is your former classmate. Former is the word. You sigh. Spend a good 15 minutes brushing up. He's put on some weight. No sunflowers amongst his wrinkles. Short hair is all grey, as rigid fingers clasping a smoke and the concert program. But how his old face lights up at your side, spreads his arms, your knees turn into jelly and you fall into them like to the clouds in heaven. Through numerous drinks you have in a bar, he tells you about his horde of children and his third wife. Things are pretty much the same. He chuckles and you see it all in his fading grey eyes that avoid yours. Not once they shoot up at you until the farewell. He lingers. His lips open and close shut, open again. The soft hand encircles yours, not for a short handshake. I'm sorry, he whispers. His thumb gentler than ever against your thin skin. It's a beautiful piece, and I don't deserve it. You shake your head, laugh, squeeze his fingers with all your soul, and slip through them. In the blue room, bathed in moonlight sonata, you take out the picture from your trousers pocket and take a long, loving look at the boy with shimmering skin, at the boy from the moon. That's it. Thank you for listening.
Lovely. All right.
Angela,
How are you?
no,
You're still muted,
Mike,
girl.
your mic.
Yes, I saved y'all from the dogs and me. No, that was
Pshaw.
beautiful. And
Yes.
if you feel like sharing, what are some of the things that kind of built that poem for you? I mean, that's a pretty long, detailed, very authentic and raw kind of poem.
I think my best poems are all like this. They are more like stories, maybe even novels.
Mm-hmm.
Because originally I wanted to be a novelist. Maybe that's why. And then I just thought, looking at Allen Ginsberg, I thought, well, I can write this in poetry form. That's fine. Not all of my poems are this heavily plot constructed, of course, but some of them are. The book. But
Yes.
Yeah.
Z knows, it's probably one of my favorites.
That's a good one.
It's, I wanted to read it, but it has a pretty descriptive sex scene, so I picked The Moon and the Rose because it was lighter. But then it's also about unrequited love. Unrequited love, and especially when it's same-sex love. It's a topic that is very dear to me, and a topic that I always like to explore in my work. And I love to read about it as well.
Awesome. Awesome. And that's about all we have time for this section. We're going to go on intermission, but I want you two to share where we can find you. I've shared a ton of links in chat, but just give us a little bit of where we can find your work. What might you have coming up? And then we will take an intermission, and then we will come back and we will have poetry reading. So,
where you can find our future work.
Well, what if you feel like sharing it? Are you working on something now? Where do you think it would come from? What are you doing next? And also, where can we find you? And that is in the chat.
Do you want me to go first, or?
Sure.
Okay. So, well, right now I'm actually working on just a bunch of poems. I'm not sure if they're ever going to come out, but someday I hope to have another collection. Right now, basically, the only thing I have up on Amazon you can find it is The Men Who Married Death. It's my first poetry collection. I think that link is in the chat too.
Yeah,
Thank
and I've
you.
been sharing that, and I'm going to share it right now again. Awesome. And
Cool,
here
thank you.
is also your website. And then how about you, Rina? What are you working on, like from here? Or are you just kind of taking a little bit of a break and absorbing this?
Well, actually, just the other day I wrote a new poem, and I realized that I will make a new collection, of course. Yes. And I think that, of course, I haven't put much thought into it yet, but I probably will. And I think that very likely it will be a collection of dream poetry.
Neat.
Awesome.
Here for it.
I think
I knew you'd love it.
we're
so
all going to
into
be
it.
after that tea.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little ad for the tea in the back of it.
Yeah.
A recipe
All right.
in case people harvest their own. Yeah.
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 All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming on to the first half of Cake Hyperbull. And now, if you stick around, we're going to have intermission, and then we will come back and we will have mini readers, and then we're just going to be reading poetry.
Cool.
And not eating the unicorn cake that is sitting on my desk.
I'll like talking with my Swiss roll. Like, look at that swirl.
I will trade.
Like across the what? Wouldn't it be great if I tossed it and you just caught on your side? All right, intermission.
All right. I will see you guys in 5-10 minutes. We won't start till we see everybody lined back up and ready to go.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
See
Thank
you.
you.
Cake and hyperbole, poetry is on the way. Cake and hyperbole, the poetry kettle is whistling, yay. Cake and hyperbole, poetry and life and death and discussion. Sometimes hyperbole, sometimes hyperbole, and cake poetry is on the way.
All right. I swear I will never get that song out of my head now.
Same.
Do you hear me?
There we go.
Welcome, everybody. We got some new poets joining us. Oh, and here is Maxwell. We got some new poets joining us. And there is Jess. We have a full house today. Yay! Because we have so many poets, I'm going to say when we're not reading, let's mute our mics. That way we don't have a lot of feedback or anything, because we got a lot of us on here right now. And I'm going to just do a round robin. Everybody introduce yourself. Tell us where you can find your work. And then, because I have been talking obsessively for the last hour, I feel like I'm going to let Amy take the guide.
Okay, I don't know if you said something to me. I missed it because of the feedback. You're looking at what now?
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and mute when we're not on so we don't have feedback.
Right.
And then I'm going to let you kind of guide everybody through for the reading.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see. Rita, do you want to start with since I'm just going down, skipping me and Angela, then maybe Rina, Amy, and then second row, Jess, Maxwell, and there's Pete and Anton. Does that sound good?
This sounds good to me. And I'm just going to,
all right,
everybody just introduce yourselves as you come on, and then, yeah.
All right, Rina.
Hi, yeah. Should I introduce myself again? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, because this is a whole nother, Anton hasn't met, well,
Okay.
So we're a whole new group now.
All right. So, hi everyone. My name's Rina Inae. I'm from Russia, but I write poetry in English. Somehow it happened so. Yeah. What else? Yes. Let me read my poetry. That's it. All right, so there is a poem I wrote just the other day, and it's not from my poetry collection, Songs of Despair Behind the Closed Doors. So it probably will end up on a new collection somewhere in the future. And it's an untitled poem. Yeah. So, new poem. Forbidden to take his warm hand, sneaking in the halls of an enemy's house, I haven't seen him since I got here. A vaporous ghost without a name, making myself glad to slide below doors. His wife, quite young and not unpleasant, is my aunt's godchild, 3 years younger than me, whimsical, moodier. I don't know what he had found in her, but even more so, I don't know what he found in me. The rooms filled with thick inhospitality, everyone's minding their own business, having put great effort in keeping him away from me. When imprisoned without his comfort in a hostile dining room, with a painting sister-daughter assigned to watch, neglecting it among her acryl-stained t-shirts. The aunt, in her shimmering skirt, lays out peaches on the table, in the gelid grey sunrays, battling with a vintage curtain. The absence of her look says the peaches are not for me. Nobody else touches them. The salty breeze freshly takes me out on the stormy balcony. Opaque, turbid sea washing out the rails choppy from the wind by the coldness of metal fortress I glimpse his raven black hair fluttering in the gust. It's not yet grey despite his respectable age. I walk up to him and lean into his stolen half-embrace, his sick eroded face not smiling at me, but his hand is soft on my shoulder. He smiles like a lonesome sunrise, my father, my murky lover. Before I can gasp, his wife emerges with the grimace of a typhoon. My hands drop from his. Under her sharp black eyes, he turns away, walks away. His coat and suitcase, his silent bag, the aunt, the wife, the sister-daughter, the cook-maid, form an impenetrable wall between my ache and the train. I will never see him again. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rina, for sharing that poem, which yeah, good. All right. How about Amy Langevin? Something.
Okay. Well, hello everybody. It's nice to be here. Nice to meet you all. I guess a short biography about me is really just an aspiring writer. I started writing poetry and short stories when I was bored at work, and then I put together my first poetry collection. It's called The Men Who Marry Death. And now I'm just getting back into writing again, so hopefully I'll have new stuff out maybe in a year or two, I don't know. The poem I have for you today, it's a haiku string, and it's called The Coroner's Affair. It's told by a male coroner also. It's kind of confusing as a female's reading it, I understand. Okay, so I sink into her, releasing life into death, then her eyes flutter. 9 months and he's here, made not by her attacker, but her coroner. How we laugh and play, now he's old enough to walk, one merry menage. That's it.
Thank you, Amy. Okay, onward, Jess. Can you do a small biography and a poem for us?
I say that again, Amy.
We are ready for your brief bio and poem, if you've got one for us. Yeah.
Okay. Brief bio. I'm from Missouri, and that's as interesting as it gets. And my name's Jess. So I wrote King of Poor Small Town Folk, which goes hand in hand with that Missouri part I mentioned. So here we go. My grandpa was the king of poor small town folk, was a savior and a villain. Found you a car to get you to work for $100 a month, and that was in the 70s. Found you a place to live when you couldn't afford anywhere else. Came into your life with opportunities and came into your house with a bat when you didn't follow through. He wanted you to do better for your kids, for your wife, for yourself. He didn't know anything but fear as a motivator, and he was a motivational speaker. He wasn't going to let you fail, and he was going to destroy you first before he let that happen. I'm sorry, your king was a tyrant. People always choose a king. People have to choose to follow. Even though kings are always tyrants, some are less violent than others. But all of them lead by preaching fear, and they have to make you fear living without them, because if they taught you how to lead yourself, they wouldn't be kings anymore. And there wouldn't be kings at all without you. Thanks.
Thank you, Jess. All right. And Maxwell, short bio and a poem from you.
There we go. Sorry. Hello, everyone. My name is Maxwell Gold, and I'm a Rising Award nominated poet. I've been writing for a little over 4 years with over 40 poems and short stories published. And yeah, I write mostly like weird fiction and cosmic horror. And the poem I'm going to read today, I don't think I've read this before. I don't think I read it last time. If I did, then, you know. The poem I'm going to read today is actually nominated for the Rislings this year. It's called Cellars, Caskets, and Closets. This one was, I wrote it as a longer prose poem, but some people have considered it a flash story. But anyway, it was nominated as a poem, so it's a poem. Inside a twisted rhizome of mutilated gray spaces through cellar doors, dripping with speckled layers of teal plaster and pulp, the awful smell of paint and wood scratched my nostrils as I lost my goddamn mind. I found myself trapped in the gutted ramparts of my mind all the time, stranded atop a tower in the mountainous webs of brain matter and bile. No one to talk to, no way out, no kind of familiar voices to console me. Dark and distant shadows vibrated against my ears through petrified wood doors, rusty hinges swaying in the stale air. I caught passing glances of a world that could be, not this place layered in false judgments and licentious thoughts of insincerity. Leave me alone, I cried, chains wrapped around my ankles. The maze went on forever, and I had no way of knowing how long I was trapped in here. Those things of mirror and mayhem followed me, and I thought I had eluded them, but to no avail. Under the piercing glare of their red eyes, they followed me into this place. Awash with a sense of terror, I knew they were close, and soon they'd be upon me. The maze seemed familiar, like an unfinished room in my childhood splattered with paint cans and tarps. I wandered frantically through the corridors. The clanking of chains followed me from room to room. A chill rushed down my spine, the chains even heavier than before. You'll never escape this place, came those dissonant whispering voices. These closets will be your hell. No, leave me alone. The casp behind my body grew more dense, their voices seeping out from the edges. The mirrored ones had always been there, creeping through the walled lining of my life, waiting in my cyanide dreams. I pulled a casket of iron and marble from cellar to cellar, tower to tower, voices chasing me inside my head, afraid to open the metal box, wanting to destroy it. The mirrored ones weren't monstrous corporeal things wrought by some galactic calamity or creatures born of stardust. They were worse. Why do you carry on? The banality of the mirrored ones gnawed at the foundations of my mind, laughing in tones of abject sadness, towering over me in the immensity of black silence and subjective uselessness. Their bodies constructed in liquescent mirrors and thoraxes of neon and metal. They were relentless. I couldn't blot out their shrill cackles. Behind me, the lucidity of my dreams withered under the grayness and grandeur as the mirrored ones began to grind their iron teeth into the fabric of my thoughts, triturating them into dust. And I ran. Heavier, the casket grew. Heavier as the laughter grew, a tidal wave of metallic sounds. Their rusty thoraxes screeched as they tromped closer, attempting to snatch the box, voices exhaling in a crescendo of corrosion, eroding my will. Towers, cellars, all was swallowed into the waiting abysm of mirrored silence, where dark, shadowy fingers grasped the edge of the casket. The raucous symphony of laughter shifted into howling moans, and my head throbbed, sinuses clogged with the familiar scent of paint and wood as the casket disappeared inside a twisted rhizome of mutilated gray spaces through cellar doors, dripping with speckled layers of teal plaster and pulp. I lost my goddamn mind.
Thank you, Maxwell. And next we have Pete. Pete, please introduce yourself briefly and give us a poem.
Hello, I'm Nervous from the UK. Hello, everyone. I'll read Flop Houses, inspired by late 19th century, early 20th century loggers in the States. And a flop house is where unemployed people was the only place they could live because it's cheap. And there were quite expensive hotels once, but now they become these flop houses. So, instinct opens leadened eyes, sunken chest heaves a breath. Still here, he sighs, sight pained with consciousness. Reaching for his anesthetic, rolling a cigarette. Burning time in increments, he inhales to forget. Walls of nicotine stain glow with an orange hue. Many memories exhaled, a life wafting from view. Grey swirls drift and float, a metaphor of his being. Angel beams cut the smoke through his window of seeing. Stepping out into a gloomy hallway, absorbed into it perspired unkempt odours, passing cells of similar lives from behind each door now stirs. Forms uncurling to emerge from their chrysalis overcoats, cracking bones, forcing groans, as timbers do on old boats. Last stopped residents, transient lifers, ringing the remnants of existence. These inmates of Poverty Row, invisible to a wealthier subsistence. Spewing from a yawning mouth of a once grand reception, these anonymous creatures, undetermined of any direction. Colourful ladies stand their pitches, decorating doorway and corridor, adorned in this flawed jewellery, a hotel's pretense of days now over. Thank you.
And thank you, Pete. All right, next we have is Anton. I'm trying to read the tiny. Anton, is that correct? Okay, Anton, please introduce yourself and read us a poem if you would.
Okay, hi there. I'm Anton Kanker, the incredibly intelligent person that went with a pseudonym because my last name is normally really hard for people to pronounce, and then picked one that nobody ever seems to be able to pronounce because I'm good like that. I am also a Riesling losing poet. I take great pride in having lost my chance at that one. Aiming for being an Elgin Award losing poet as well. I've got this collection that went out this year through Dragon's Roost Press. It's Meaningless Cycles in a Vicious Glass Prison. Poems all based off of Della Morte Dell'Amore or Cemetery Man, all depending on which version of the movie you happen to see. Lots of shirtless Rupert Everett. In the 90s, when Rupert Everett shirtless meant something. So, you know, poems are... I didn't spend as much time talking about his pecs or nipples as I really should have in there. That's something to keep in mind for the future. Outside of that, today I'll go ahead and read a poem that was put up in Penumbric magazine fairly recently. This is Queen of the Fucking Butterflies, Drunk and Expounding on Existence. We want to start with the chrysalis when we give the grand tour of our remaking. Wrapped tight in still, cool darkness while flesh dissolves into genetic slurry, then reforms, solidifies into a new construct. The struggle to break free, to unfurl wings that will find their bright, flamboyant patterns in the fragile dust, is the stuff of legends. It's a good place to begin when every narrative ends in emergence as the queen of the fucking butterflies. What we don't like to talk about is the time before that. Inching along on our stomachs. A soft, undulating tube of protein just waiting to fill something's belly. We aren't really fond of bringing up the fear still nestled quietly in our DNA. The knowledge that each shadow we see passing overhead, each shifting leaf or swaying branch carries sharpened beaks set to tear and swallow, and every breeze is the downdraft of another wasp ready to lay its eggs in neat little rows along your back. It's easier to bypass that, to call it a dream and nullify it. A cleaner birth for those of us that made it this far. A friendlier bedtime yarn when the stars don't shine quite bright enough. Something to quell the shakes that scurry up from deep down when we cling to treetops. A whisper that we were always able to flee to the open blue, while ourselves themselves know better the truth of what we all once were.
And thank you, Anton. Angela Yuriko, that's me being your mother by calling you by your first and middle name. It is your turn. Tell us a little bit about you and have a poem.
It's always good to remember where the mute button is. Thank you, Amy. And don't forget that you also have to read, because I always forget when I'm doing the talkie thing. Yes, I'm Angela, and I get in way too many things like this crazy show. And I just have these crazy ideas, and then we do them, and yes, too many of those. That's my bio. And I didn't know Pete was British, so, well, UK, right? I don't want to insult you. Okay. And I have a thing for that. I married an Australian. It was the voice that got me. So I love, that was, So anyways, I have a little crush on you. I'm just admitting that right now. And the poem that I have a couple of them that I'd picked out, but because he read about the flop house and everything, I am going, and I love the rest of you. You don't have to have that accent. I still will love you. But I'm just saying, I got a thing for that accent. And my husband's not watching this right now. So the one that I'm going to read kind of concerns the flop house and everything, Riding the Exhale, which was in HWA Showcase and a Rising nominee, and probably going to be a Rising, what did Anton say? A Rising loss. So, but hey, what matters is that we're still here. And this is Riding the Exhale. Today I still breathe in the streets of the undead, immortal mortal, wandering penance for the sins of my father, a sacrament of gin. Halitosis lips admonish me for my sins, but I am too gone for tired redemption. Good advice springing like weeds and worth just as much. They do such good deeds, tossing coins from a distance, pose for the camera and tell me of love I will receive when I die, and not before then. Post-consumer me, my asset now in default, no longer human. I am your zombie, downcast eyes in a doorway, shuffling in rags. I am real horror, the forgotten living dead, one day at a time, all I can handle. The curb is my horizon, riding the exhale. So, and that is my poem. And I am totally copping out, and I'm pitching this to Amy, and you have to read now. Don't forget yourself.
I will not forget, because first I'll introduce myself and then I'll tell you I won't forget. I'm Amy Zoellers. I'm on Instagram at Hypness and Outrage. The things that I do are I like to write poetry. Angela and I do a poetry live on Instagram, usually once a month on the third Sunday. Also, I do visual art, which I sell in an Etsy shop, which you can find that link in the bio and the chat, I think, too. And music sometimes for fun. Did the theme song, Cake and Hyperbull Cake. That was this girl. Anyway, the reason I won't forget to read Angela is because I wrote one in your Hey Yay form. Did everybody get a load of Angela sort of like taking a form from a really fun song that, Fantastic Superpowers? Geez, I forget the title, but it's by and so forth.
Slack Circus.
Originally, thank you, Slack Circus. And you know what? It's from some song from the 90s. And according to my friend, it was For Non-Blondes. I did not confirm that, but he immediately was like, For Non-Blondes. And I'm like, oh. So I knew it before that, and they took it and made it hilarious and put He-Man in it. Angela took the syllable form and turned it into a poetry form, which we call Hey Yeah, because hey, yeah, yeah. Anyway, I wrote one, and it's called Preoccupation. It wasn't you, Paul McCartney, but always George. Yet I can't shake the idea of reading your leaves. Forbidden, forbidden. What will I find at the bottom of your teacup? Death by collision? A car? A coffin? I won't look. Your wishes unbidden. I insist on resisting your heavy eyelids and the gypsy's jewels beckoning me since childhood. What's hidden stays hidden. All right. Thank you. All right. Okay, Angela, what next? Should we go right on through again, or what do you say?
Yeah. Does everybody have another poem? Wave if you've got more poetry to read. I am loving this, by the way. All of these poems are awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And usually we do more chatting, but because we have so many, we're kind of we want to make sure everybody can read a couple poems. So, but yeah, I see you've muted, Amy.
Okay. Would you like me to continue with?
It's up to
Okay,
you.
Rina,
I
you're
just feel
up. Is
like
that-
I
yeah,
you know,
happily.
I've had way too much coffee. You know how that goes. So
I had tea during the first hour. Now I'm in coffee, and you run the risk of me getting into tangents when I introduce, but I will keep it tight. All right. By the way, I'm going to show off my shirt, which says Hot Poet. Oh, wait, I go that way. There we go. All right. You can see that in action on Instagram when I'm playing my dance for fees at Oregon. Rina, have you something else for us today?
Yeah.
Okay. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I guess I also need to make an addition to my bio because I was a little bit confused that it's actually another event. Yeah, a month ago I published my first poetry collection that's called Songs of Despair Behind the Closed Doors. You can find it on Gumroad. Yeah, that's it. And I want to read a poem from this collection now. So the previous poem was not from it, but this one is from the collection. So it's called Poets of the Past. Poets of the past, riding a train to eternity, with their leather suitcases filled with blood, handfuls of carnations, love that couldn't be shared in warmly full groups, with their collages, montages, and automatic writing, in communal martyrdom, fueled by desire alone, an endless rotation of wheels, despite the temporariness of altered states. Poets of the past admire the splendor of foreverness through one-way mirror windows, with their morose smiles and their tragic eyebrows and self-terminated lives. Junk scald in their veins, and invisible meth insects biting their meat from the inside, elevate them into cosmos. From there, bodies take roots in the cold ground. Their words, whispered, desperately cried out, passionately muttered in their friend's wind ear, icy shrieks from the other side, thrust through their shoulder blades to carry them into holiness, with their epicious theater and Greek tragedy and scrupulously documented anguish. Your voices are enclosed in sheer space out of fabric of time, at the spring where the soul is born, forevermore, and after times are gone, forevermore, the pain truths live on. That's it. Thank you.
And thank you, Rina. Poets of the past. And Amy Langevin, have you got another one you'd like to read? Let's see. My frozen.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to unmute
okay.
myself and like
Amy Langevin.
I kind of froze. Yeah. Okay. So I have
hear
one called The Better Half. Okay. This is from my collection, The Men Who Married Death. It's called The Better Half. The palest of willows, your still flesh glows pristine. It's only cast shadows, a spread of angels' wings. Alas, as your glow beams ever brighter, my spirit fades to shades of far darker. For your wings shaped like angel feather, be no other than sweet springs of blood, their color ruby luster. Over orchard meadows and thick slime falls, these hungry hands indulge despite each fall. My starving hands which bore that blade of unhinged lust, bore it with no remorse and made you fall to dust. But as you lie here, and yet not with me, my dear, I yearn for our past with great greed and forlorn tears. I remember first my surprised delight at your marked resilience to your plight. Till it laid affray, you bore my whip's flaming kiss, until my hands peeled sores, your neck embraced their bliss. How my stakes enticed your lusty wiggling, their iron pleasing, deep, hard, and stinging, and with each you regaled me with the kind of screams, dear one, I have heard only in the best of dreams. And when tools fell dulled, and all remained was my blade, I completed you, stabbing, slashing, until splayed. My love, sweet relief rains down upon you, cool rivers of satisfaction, plentiful too. And I must admit, though your eyes see me no more, mine still feast upon your every bruise, slash, and sore. You may gawk at the heavens, or implore the angels above, but to them your drenched wings will never deliver you, my love. Yes, oh yes, with me, only me, you're destined to stay. Each succulent mouthful stores you ever away. My pristine angel, in me your radiant glow shall disperse, to lift me once again from my bleak depravity, that curse. Because, dear one, you are my better half, and that the same. My curse is remedy, your sacrifice keeps brightening.
And thank you, Amy Langevin. I just I love your poetry story that you just had like spare time at work, and then I had this collection of poetry. I read about a guy whose wife was always late to dinner, so for 10 minutes he would write, and then he had a novel in like 2 months. So that's great use of time. I love that. Okay, Jess, who is actually far more interesting than just being from Missouri. Okay, because Angela and I used to work with you at the library, and I think you're great. So please, do you have another poem for us?
I do. This one is called Things. Working title. Here we go. Some kids grow up with no things, but I had things. I had wonderful things. I had a case of chalk, and I made houses and dogs and drama. I had a stage, and it was the street, and I was famous to my little sister. But some kids grow up without food. But we had canned green beans and corn, and we had chicken in the freezer and a box of mac and cheese. I was hungry sometimes, but Mom always had fruit somewhere. Some kids grow up without discipline, but we got bloody noses and we learned to hate ourselves, and that crying was just not worth it because Mom doesn't care about how you feel. You better be straight, Christian, and make up for all the things Mom didn't have, because she didn't get to grow up, because she never had those things. And she went without food sometimes, and she went without discipline, and she tried her damnedest to get it all for us, and was disappointed when it didn't fix her past. Thanks.
Thank you, Jess. Maxwell, you're up.
So everyone's talking about collections. I almost forgot. My debut prose poetry collection comes out in August. Yes, Anton's giving me like the death glare right now because I forgot to mention it before. So I'll put the pre-order information here. It's coming out in paperback, but this is just the Kindle. I'll also put the name for my website where you can find more information as well. So if this is okay with Angela, I was going to read a poem from so Angela and I are working on a book of call and response poems called Mobius Lyrics. So the poem that I'm going to read is called Deathless. So this call and response is, so I wrote a call of death and hers was entropy. So this one is called Deathless. Faster and faster the world was spinning. The damned witch grew thirstier, and with every burst of heat, matter, and atomic embrace poured onto her bosom. The chaotic systems grew with intensity. And where was I in all of this? A faceless force drifting in the dark without purpose. Ageless, shapeless, and now deathless. As the heat grew, filling the universe with life, meaning, and sometimes inane rhizomatic destruction, there she was, always giving life in the end, putting me out of work and purpose, and the imbalance in the equation, where that irascible, self-centered bitch was causing my ruin. I am become death, they would say of me, fearful and humble at my feet. Now, what am I? Some annoyance, some false equivalency to the mistress of disorder, entropy herself. Death had no place in a system where the world was moving faster and faster, shattering the broken galactic ceilings as she grew thirstier, hotter, and more wretched. I am become death, she'd say to me in my nightmares. The mute button.
And thank you, Maxwell. Okay, Pete, have you another one to read for us?
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Hello. Yeah, this is my one of my favourite topics, vampires. Born of legend. Existence has borne us into myth, a prize of man's informed ignorance. I observe your decay with concern, whilst walking among your social deviants. The pavement echoes my footsteps, resounding about a maze of human existence. Flashing shop signs jostle for attention within this self-commercial expanse. Oh, you spoilt children of mortality, directionless save for self-exploit, wander this world uninvited, seeing only with covetous eyes. Open windows beckon me welcome. My coldness precedes an entrance, visualized by this crawling mist, billowing menace in appearance. You retreat within a blanket's comfort, to stand at ease your body hair, or the logic of a skeptic deserts you, gliding within your disbelieving stare. The sensuous euphoria of blood, gyrating my head as I lick my lips, suspended in the pose of that missionary, to mock the conviction of a crucifix. I read the thoughts, confused and helpless, closing my eyes to imagine your fear. To tease oneself is such delight, till I can bear no more, I release my hunger. I crawl like the parasite I am, magnetic stare holds you paralyzed. As I enter your world from myth, your ignorance of legend is realized. Prone to the weight of advancing horror, my will penetrates your delicate protection, drawing the curtains of your resistance, smothering senses within a mind's suffocation. I gorge upon the taste of sensual musk, intoxicating a need to feed. Effortlessly I glide to release a flood of experience and emotion as you bleed. Taken to a pleasure short of nausea as the blood pumps down my throat. So willing to leave this fragile creature, helpless as my prey, doomed without hope. Just another unexplained death to you who choose not to believe, covered up beneath a blanket of denial, an ancient truth you fear to perceive. You. Oh.
Thank you, Pete. All right. Anton, you got another one to read?
Yes. And like I wasn't certain which ones. I'll read one of the ones out of the collection. But since Max mentioned Angela's poem Entropy, like that made this a pretty easy decision. So I have Entropy as a matter of emotion. Your wife will grow to hate you. Your kids will eventually spit in your face. That dear, sweet, jackhammering beast in your chest will dry out and shrivel, putrefying in its fragile cage of bone.
Thank you, Anton. Cheery.
It's nice and happy. I wanted to
Great.
make sure to have the last one be a super happy one.
I love the mix of people that we have here. I think it's a beautiful tapestry. Angela, something for us next?
Yes, I was actually hoping that Maxwell would read one of the ones that we're working on together because the call and response is so much fun to do. So I had them all open and I was waiting to see if he would pick one. And so I'm going to read the reply to Deathless, which is, of course, called Life Full. And I just want to thank Rina and Pete for being here today to class this up, okay, with the accents and everything. It makes us Americans sound like way better. So thank you for being here to class up this thing. And I will read Life Full, which a lot of what I write is linked haiku. I really like that, unless I'm making up some weird kind of form, which Amy, that was awesome. I was so thrilled that you did that. So, all right, Life Full. Time to make a mess, she said. Lips parted, she sighed. In her breath, starshine. Galaxies oozed forth primordial ecstasy, primitive passion, mixing into pools, a Milky Way springing forth from her dark matters. planets rotating intensely circumpolar until that Big Bang, coeval suns exploding and blowing her mind, ecliptic orbits align under her rush of synchronicity, effervescent flood, a supernova, with molten cry, glazing stars and first morning dew. Breathing out, she wanes, a messier for later, post-culmination. And that was not that I want to write poetry porn, but Maxwell's was so cold and kind of edged and harsh and, empty and death. And I wanted to go completely opposite and do wet and oozing, and I should probably just stop now. Oh, thank you, Amy.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. Okay, I'm going to read one more. We are going to go to the great state of Kansas at 2 o'clock so my husband can go record shopping. So I'll have to skate at like 2 o'clock Central, like boom. So apologies if I do that. Golden Shovel is my next one, is the form. If you hadn't been to one of our Instagram readings, I got obsessed with golden shovels when I discovered them in a book called The Practicing Poet. And originally it was a poet who chose the poet Gwendolyn Brooks and took a line from her poetry. Each word in that line becomes the last word. You just write them vertically in your margin, boom, and then it's the last word of each line of your poem. And so this one is from Oscar Wilde poem, which I'll read the line after I read the poem. But I did find myself in some Valvoline, which is an oil change place. I found myself at Valvoline's like twice in the last month because my husband usually does that, and just this month he was like, I can't. So I'm at Valvoline constantly. I've got like 6 Valvoline poems. This is Valvoline 5, and it's a golden shovel. Put them in a butt cake, she told herself, quoting Barb's cartoon man. Cannot bear the emotional overload. Can only hear the mind's anguished dirge. Lyre and electric guitar silent, or was it salient? Silliest slick sonnet, slick as Valvoline, synthetic oil, all 3 quarts of it in Not My Car, burning oil like a menace, life's truest tune, quoting the mechanic, buried in the Valvoline Bay here, underneath Not My Undercarriage. A heap of synthetic oily expertise, salt of earth. He was wry and poetic upon the subject of burning oil, earth, life, all of it. And the line from Oscar Wilde's Requiem Scott that I used for my last words of each line was, she cannot hear lyre or sonnet, all life's buried here, heap earth upon it. Devastating. So there you go. That's what I have.
That's awesome.
All right, what next, Angela?
Well, we're not going to have time to do another round because we have so many poets, which is an awesome problem to have. But I'm thinking before, like as we close, just have everybody go through, say who you are again, and where can we find your work? Because there's so much amazing work here. Pimp yourself. We need to know where everybody is. Where can we buy more? And I emphasize buy, because poets don't live on poetry. We actually, it's weird, but we live on money. So support these poets.
And food. Okay, Angela, why don't you start with where you can be found?
Oh yeah, thanks for putting me on the spot. No, now you can find me usually just at my blog, AngelaWeissmith.com, and everything kind of links from there. All the everythings can be found there. And I am trying to get back to a daily posting schedule again, and I have made it over a week, so I'm super proud of myself. So how about you, Amy, who actually has things for sale and good stuff to share?
Oh, thanks. I'm going to repeat your website because I felt like I talked over it. Did you have AngelaWeissmith.com?
Yeah, that actually is just my name, AngelaYurikoSmith.com. But if you can't spell Yuriko and you don't want to, I understand. And it's why. There's also
That's
Angela Weissmith.
Okay. Yeah, so AngelaYurikoSmith.com or AngelaWeissmith.com. Very cool. I'm Amy Zoellers. I'm at Fitness and Outrage _ in between. That's on Instagram. And on Instagram, you can find all the links. There's 2. But also to my Etsy shop, which is like fitnessandoutrage.etsy.com, or just go to the Etsy shop and put in Hypness and Outrage, and I sell some visual art things. And and commissions open. And all that. Oh, currently, I should spread the word on this. Currently, I'm doing a project where you can send me a photo of yourself putting on lipstick. I will draw you. You're a star. Rina has taken part. I drew their portrait last week. Angela has sent one. I have not drawn it yet because I'm doing them one a day. And there's a queue, as they say. There's a line. So a short line. So please send a photo. All are welcome. All genders, all identities. Send your lipstick portrait. I'll draw it. And I'll post it on Instagram, and we'll see where it goes. Okay, that's me. How about you, Rina? One more time.
I'm Rina Inae. You can find me on Instagram. It's rina.inae. That's it. And also, you can buy my poetry collection, Sons of Despair, Behind the Closed Doors, on Gumroad. That's it. Thank you.
And real quick, that is the link to Rina's poetry is in their bio on Instagram at rina.inae. Link in the bio will take you right to their poetry collection. All right, Amy Langevin. Just tell us
Hi.
where we can find you and stuff.
Yeah, my name is Amy. You can find me at www.amylangevinterramir.wordpress.com. And my poetry collection, The Men Who Married Death, is on Amazon in ebook and paperback.
Great. And Jess, how about you? Just close this up here.
My last name is long, and if you ever Google that, you will find a million people. So I will work on finding something, but there's nothing for me to push out at this time. So.
I did the thing and my screen got big. Anyway, Jess, we're watching for that. So yes, please. Okay, Maxwell.
There it goes. Okay. Yeah, so you can find me at thewellsoftheweird.com. I didn't think about the name of my website when I made it. But yeah, so I put it in the chat. It's thewellsoftheweird.com. That has most of my information on there. I also put the pre-order link for my latest collection, my debut collection from Crystal Lake Publishing, and that comes out August 6th. And my Instagram is at CyberGodWrites. I can put that in the chat too. And yeah, that's pretty much all my stuff's on there.
Great. Maxwell, is that CyberGodWrites with a W, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
As in writing. Okay. Great. Okay, so CyberGodWrites in Instagram. Okay, and Pete, let us know where we can find you.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Pete Kelly. I haven't got any, like Jess, I haven't got anything to push or anything like that to sell, but I'm like Amy, I'm on Instagram under Splats007. There's a mixture of poetry and boat building. Thank you.
And also, Pete sent me a link to a YouTube. I won't say if you don't want, and I also have to go back and check what the name of your group was, but they had a band. And if you liked hearing Pete read the poetry in that very storytelling, almost, okay, Pete, don't hate me for this. I was like 17 or 18 when I saw the pirate band at the Renaissance Festival. And I was like, it was such a warm feeling when you did your band. Just, post a link to your YouTube, or I if you, with your blessing, I may share it in a story, and then y'all can check out Pete's musical situation, which is just as much presence as his reading. So there you go. Okay, thank you, Pete. And Anton, you.
Hi there. Yep, Anton Kanker. I have a blog spot website still. It's just, but if you search Anton Kanker, I come up fairly easily. But yeah, I don't know why I haven't bothered turning that into like a regular website URL. I rarely do anything with it anyways. but you know, you can go to Amazon, you can buy this book and give me money. I will take your money. Also, anybody, if let's try that again. If you contact me through like the same name on any of the social media things or whatever, if you buy it directly from me, then I give a little extra chapbook and I'll like write you an individualized poem in the front, because why not? You gave me money directly. You know, that's fun to me. So, you know, I'll do those things. And you get to see my horrible handwriting then, which is just, let me tell you, kindergartners are so jealous of how much harder it is to read my handwriting than theirs.
Thank you, Anton. My husband makes me address every envelope because he feels that way about his handwriting, which I'm like, you're just being lazy. But anyway, thank you all for coming. Angela, shall we close it out? Have any closing remarks for us?
No, just thanks for doing this with us, you guys. This is kind of an experimental work in progress. We're still trying to get the hang of, especially like the double show format. I think that worked pretty good. Mostly that was just so we're all poets. Why not just, you know, all group up together instead of having different links we have to navigate. So, but yeah, so feedback is welcome. Whatever you guys thought of this, we're open to positive criticism. If you give us negative criticism, we will unfriend you. That's my warning. No, I'm just kidding. We survived
just say
puberty.
it nice. We do,
So,
yeah. If you have criticism, just couch it in beautifully sweet words and sandwich it with compliments, and we'll be like, okay, absolutely, we will.
yeah. Feed us
Consider
chocolate.
that.
You can say whatever you want.
That's right. All right. Okay, everybody, I'm going to skate so that my marriage stays well intact. I'm going to go to Lawrence, Kansas and shop for some records. It was so great to hear everyone's poetry. Mwah.
Thank you,
Goodbye.
Amy. You're awesome. I'm going to close out with Amy's song. And then, yeah, it's over until next month. Same time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Cake and hyperbole, poetry is on the way. Cake and hyperbole, the poetry kettle is whistling, yay. Cake and hyperbole, poetry and life and death and discussion. Sometimes hyperbole, sometimes hyperbole.